Hi guys, welcome to Superhero Teacher. I'm so glad to see you guys. I'm excited for my first video with you guys and talk to you about my experience as a teacher and a little bit of what I've learned throughout the years. The theme of today that I really want to talk to you guys about is communication and language with children. I know it's something we struggle a lot with. Sometimes it's hard to understand what the kids really want, and vice versa. It's hard for them to really communicate what their needs are. So I'm here to help. And first of all, I want you guys to understand that language is a thing that children acquire very early on. What they struggle with is not so much the language as a concept itself. It's more of how to process the word they acquired and speak it. So, for example, when a kid says woof woof, even though he knows the word dog, he is still not able to maturely in his brain process the information and say the correct word. But they do know and understand what language is. I'm going to go through some guidelines that I think, as parents, as teachers, as caregivers, we always have to keep in mind. And I think it's a good way to learn how to communicate with children. So the first one is always, always, always. First of all, you need to grab the child's attention. And this means getting at their level. So if like it means sitting down or getting on your knees, or it's always at their level. So their eyesight, with your eyesight, you're seeing them and they feel comfortable and they feel secure because you're at their level and you're looking for their attention. Body language is super important. What we like, how we move our hands, what facial expressions we do. Like, it says a lot about what we're communicating, so we have to be very careful as to what our facial expressions and our body language is to not negatively influence the information we're trying to deliver. So, for example, if you're saying you're trying to explain that it's not safe to ride without a seatbelt in a car, and your face is totally fearful and like super worried, well then that fearfulness and worriness is going to transmit into the child, and maybe he's only going to focus on the worrying and on the dangers of the situation rather than on like the importance of actually putting the seatbelt on and understanding the purpose of it. You also need to have a low tone of voice. Screaming does not help. I know sometimes you can get like super frustrated and we don't know what words to use. But remember, like, let's keep it at a nice tone and a calm tone. And that way, children will really be open to receiving the information you want to give them. And they will be extremely nice and polite and really open to answer back in the same way. Another thing to be really focused on, sorry, I'm reading my notes, is short words and short sentences. So nothing too elaborate. So when we were speaking to them, have the idea be very concise and like short. Don't make it too big, because then they can lose focus and get really confused and just do something else and start playing and really not focus on you. Okay, another really important thing we as adults tend to do is we tend to give options when there isn't one. So, for example, if it's time for lunch, don't say like, "Hey, do you want to keep playing or do you want to have lunch?" If it's only the option of having lunch and it's time for lunch, you need to keep it as that. So you need to be like, right now it's time for lunch and that's what's happening, nothing else. So be really clear on that, and also don't ask a question when you know there is not an answer to it. So when there's not, like, when you already know the answer to it. Sorry. So if you're saying like, "Hey, right now it's time to wash our hands. Do you think we should wash our hands?" You already know as an adult the response should be yes, because we have to clean the germs and because that's what we do before we have lunch. So, and the kids already know that because you have set the tone in the classroom in your house to what is expected and why certain things have to be done, like washing our hands. So they already know the answer to that, and you already know the answer to that. So don't ask questions when there already is an answer to it, because they know and you know. And it only confuses them and it makes things unclear, because in their minds they're like, why is she asking me this when I already know and she already knows the importance of washing her hands. Always, as any human being, be very, very aware and very mindful. Like if you're trying to speak and the little child is trying to speak too, not to interrupt them, and also permit them to have their moment to speak out and say what they need and what they're feeling. To express themselves is very important. That gives them validation. So always keep that in mind. And the most important one, I think, out of all of the tips I've given you guys is really learn how to balance praise. So I know it's really hard, even me as a teacher, I struggle with it every day, but like let's minimize, or like let's really say good job when it really is a good job. Or if we can avoid that word, it would even be even better, just because good job is saying you did what I, as an adult, wanted you to do, rather than focus on the task at hand. For example, this is a bit confusing, I know. For example, if they are they're coloring a big apple red, right? So you would be like, oh, that is beautiful. Let's keep it inside the line and let's make it all red, because in our minds as adults, an apple can only be red, and it has to be pretty only if it stays in the borders. So if the kid does exactly what you expected him to do, then automatically would say good job, because that's what you wanted out of his actions, rather than focusing on, oh, I'm seeing you're grabbing the pencil very tightly and neatly. You are doing thick strokes. I love the range of colors you're using. Why are you using red? That is a good color you put on the apple. I love how you're being very detailed with the coloring. So that is really focusing on the tasks. So on the characteristics of what the child is doing, rather than instant gratification that really doesn't teach them anything, rather than just like, oh, I got the adult's approval, I can move on without really understanding what it is I did right. So always, always, always keep that in mind, and really, really try to be mindful of avoid saying good job, and try to maybe focus more on exactly what it is that they're doing, and trying to give them positive reinforcement on those actions specifically, rather than a good job because they satisfied our needs as adults. Those, I think, are key points that you always have to remember. It doesn't matter, again, if you're a teacher, a mom, or just a caregiver. These are things that are going to help your communication with children so much more. I've seen it, like, it just transformed my life as a teacher. Like, since I started applying it, I was like, oh, it makes more sense. They understand me. We have better communication. Everything works better. Also, a book that I recommend you guys reading, which is amazing, and it's a really fast read, is this one. It's called Use Your Words. It's super fast. It's super simple, and it pretty much talks about a little bit what I'm trying to talk to you guys about today, in a much more with real cases, with real scenarios, and it just goes detail by detail on the importance and how we can really have a better communication with our children and with our students. So keep that in mind, and any questions you guys have, please email me. I'll put my information on the link below, and anything, or I'm going to keep posting stuff, but I really want to hear your feedback and see, as moms, as parents, as teachers, as caregivers, what your concerns are. I'm more than happy to help. If I have any ideas or any experience where I can help be that middle point, please let me know. I am more than happy to make a topic out of it, and keep looking at my videos. This is the first one, so I hope you guys like it. Thank you.